good. Corrosion, no. Corrosion, no. Baby's got it.
Good morning, Vietnam. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you. It is August 5th, 2024. And we got a lot of stuff to get to here, but first, shout out to my pals. And Willie Bragg, one of our producers here at the show. At the moment, I am happy it is August because the humidity will soon come to an end sometime after Labor Day in a few short weeks. All the best. Or Al the best. Maybe he thinks I'm Al. I am Al for a price. Thanks, Willie, for the 10 spot. Appreciate you. Willie's going to be on tonight, he says. He says he's going to be on tonight. So he's going to be streaming maybe one, definitely one, he said, 2 streams, maybe. And tomorrow is Bragland. They're supposed to be on last week, but Jimmy had some audio issues, aka chainsaws outside her house that she could not control. So that'll be 5 o'clock Eastern tomorrow on the YouTubers, Willie Bragg and Jimmy Sunderland. Good to see them back. So together again after all these years. So we got, like we said, Willie's here and Dee is here. Around the World, Dee and Friends. She's also on tonight as usual, 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Yes, 9 p.m. Eastern. Figure the math for all the other time zones. Come on, people. You've been living here this whole time. Desert Mantis was here, but he's off to pick mulberries. Somebody wants pie. I guess so. I've never had a mulberry pie. I can't attest to how good it is, but I'm going to assume it's pretty good. So good luck to you there, Desert Mantis. Godspeed with those berries. You know, she's been called Little Debbie, but now she's a Big Debbie. A Debbie Downer. We're talking about the hurricane formerly known as Tropical Storm Debby, which is now a full-fledged hurricane. Let's get the latest down, what's going on in FLA with the latest on the storm.
We've got breaking news. Her name is Hurricane Debby. If you heard about her, she just made landfall in North Florida. The storm has already slammed the Gulf Coast with heavy rains. Look at this, and flash flooding, very powerful winds. And they say that this is just the beginning. Georgia and South Carolina are also warned to brace for the hurricane's impact with potentially catastrophic rainfall if Debby stalls out. Catastrophic, never a good thing. We've got team coverage this morning. We're going to start with Tom Hansen. There he is. Tom's in Crystal River, Florida, north of Tampa. Tom, how bad is it?
Hey there, Gail. Well, the rain has been strong and constant, and that really is the concern with this storm, the water. There are reports of 6-foot storm surge pushing in the coast. To give you some context, that is a wall of water as tall as I am. Here in Crystal River, Florida, we've seen 6 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, and elsewhere in the state, people are being pummeled with downpours.
Debby strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane overnight, slamming coastal Florida with heavy rains, flash flooding, and sustained winds up to 75 miles per hour.
This is about a 5-foot surge.
Floridians got a preview of Debby's arrival Sunday. The island city of Cedar Key was lashed with sheets of rain. Meanwhile, 73 miles off Boca Grande, a small island town north of Fort Myers, Coast Guard crews rescued 2 boaters whose ship had lost its sail in the storm conditions. Across the state, tens of thousands of people were without power, and Governor Ron DeSantis warned that more outages were likely.
We are looking at potentially really significant flooding.
Debby is expected to churn through Florida slowly before bringing potentially historic rainfall to parts of South Carolina and Georgia later this week. In Savannah, as some Georgia residents filled sandbags, Mayor Van Johnson told our Christian Benavides he's deeply concerned.
We can move about 2 inches of rain per hour. We're expecting now 10 to 20 inches, and that creates problems for us. Worst case scenario would literally be our city underwater, and that thought terrifies me.
And of course, one of the major concerns here is flash flooding. I want to give you an idea of this because this water has crept in since we got here this morning. You can see that it is about a foot of standing water here. And to give you some context, you should take that very seriously. That is all it takes to lift a car. Vlad?
All right.
All right, Vlad. Yes, that storm surge is no joke. It is that time of year. We are in the full swing of hurricane season. So, and here's just checking out the latest where what it's doing right now. So, as they said, it was a tropical storm. Then it made landfall this morning as a hurricane. Right now, it is a Category 1 hurricane. When they say, and for those who are not familiar with the hurricane stuff, when they say landfall, you might think, oh, well, those outer bands, once the outer bands here hit the land, that's landfall, right? No, that's not. They're talking about the eye of the storm. So when the eye of the storm touches the land, that's when they say it makes landfall. Think of it as like a lady or somebody who wears this huge ass like antebellum dress that's like way the hell out to here, right? And that person's walking and they run into a door. The person didn't run into the door, the dress ran into the door. And simple reminder that the northeast corridor there of the storm is the worst with the most amount of rain and winds going on. So it's like they said, it's making a track across northeastern Florida. There looks like the eye is around Perry, Florida, and tomorrow it should the eye should be with decreasing winds. But that's the thing, once it gets past Savannah and it gets back into that southern Atlantic here, not quite as warm as the waters here in the Gulf, but still warm enough to give it some feed. And then they're projecting it to make a beeline up through South Carolina, up your way, Willie, by the weekend. So batten down the hatches, folks. If you're in those areas, we hope you're safe. Once again, we can never say enough about like getting battery or hand crank radios and flashlights. And making sure you have potable water too in advance. Might want to keep that on hand anyway if you live in those areas. But if you live in those areas, you've lived there for a long time, obviously, you've probably been doing that. So that's Hurricane Debby now. Hurricane with a Category 1 to it. So, and now on to the rest of our news. So, we knew there was going to be backlash with the assassination of the Hamas leader last week, and it's starting to make its way here. So we look here. Iran arrests dozens in sweeping arrests following Hamas leader's assassination. Senior intelligence officers, military officials, and staff workers are among those rounded up following Ismail Haniyeh's killing. So this was his funeral procession there. Iran has arrested dozens of people in the wake of the assassination of Haniyeh in the capital, Tehran, earlier this week. Among those arrested are senior intelligence officials and who we told you they're staff workers at the guest house where Haniyeh was killed. According to sources familiar with the investigation, security officials have also targeted Tehran's international and domestic airports, reviewing months of camera footage from the arrival and departure lounges and examining flight lists. The sources said that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps specialized intelligence unit for espionage is handling the investigation, right? And from Dave DeCamp over here at antiwar.com, turns out that New York Times was kind of full of shit when they said a bomb was planted. Iran says Haniyeh was killed by a short-range projectile, not a planted bomb. So Dave DeCamp, as we said, one of the hardest working people in independent media. Make sure that you're checking out antiwar.com. The Libertarian Institute also has some good stories too. And after the show, we'll have the links for all these sources here so you can check out the stories yourself. So the Islamic Revolutionary Guard said in a statement on Saturday that Haniyeh was killed by a short-range projectile in Tehran, contradicting reports that was killed by a planted explosive. According to Iran's press TV, the IRGC said the attack involved the use of a short-range projectile armed with a warhead weighing approximately 7 kilograms, which subsequently caused a massive explosion. Haniyeh was killed while staying at a heavily guarded official guest house in Tehran during a visit for the inauguration of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The New York Times and several other Western media reported he was killed by an explosive that was planted in the guest house by Israeli intelligence months earlier, but Hamas officials and eyewitnesses say a projectile hit the building. I was there, and the wall and ceiling of the place where he was were collapsed. It is clear from the appearance of the place after the attack and from the body of the martyr leader Ismail Haniyeh that the targeting was carried out by an airdrop projectile. Khalid Kadumi, Hamas's representative in Iran, told The Cradle. Discussing the reports of a bomb being planted in the building, Kadumi said the narrative published by the New York Times about Mossad agents planting explosive devices inside the apartment where he was staying is completely fabricated. They're trying to evade responsibility and its consequences for Israel. Which it doesn't really make sense, because Israel was blamed for planting the device initially. So either way, Israel is not looking good in this. Israel has a history of conducting covert attacks and assassinations inside Iran. Operations in recent years have involved gunmen, small quadcopter drones, and planted explosives at nuclear facilities. It sounds like saying, honey, I was killed. I don't know what that means. Yeah. So, we're going to get into more about what some of those repercussions are later in the show. Meanwhile, in the land of seas not, those F-16s are finally in Ukraine. Get just ready, just in time for World War III. This is Kyle Anzalone over at the Libertarian Institute. Zelensky confirms F-16s are in Ukraine. President Voldemort. Zelensky confirmed on Sunday that F-16s had arrived in Ukraine. A U.S. official said only a limited number of the warplanes are in Ukraine currently, adding the fighters are not flying combat operations. Wink. In a statement posted on Twitter, Zelensky wrote, F-16s in Ukraine, we ensured this. He added that Ukrainian pilots have already started using them for our country. A U.S. official insisted the operations were not combat missions. About a half dozen pilots were conducting test flights on as many jets in uncontested Ukrainian airspace, the New York Times reported, the unnamed official says. F-16s require 2 pilots to operate a single aircraft, meaning Ukraine is only able to currently operate 3 warplanes at a time. 3 warplanes. Zelensky included in his post that Kiev was frequently told Ukraine's Western partners could not provide F-16s. We often heard the word impossible in response, but we made possible what our ambition, he wrote. He didn't say it like that. Hopefully he didn't say it. In the opening months of the conflict, President Poopy Pants said that sending advanced American weapons would provoke a major war between Russia and NATO. But, fuck it. Take him anyway. You've done well. So things ramping up over there, with trying to make it spicy. Trying to get, Russia to, kind of like what they're doing with Iran. They're trying to coax them into this big war, and I don't think they're buying it. So, but the U.S. doubling down as usual. This is from the Cradle. U.S. warships, fighter jet squadron en route to Mediterranean to protect Israel. There's a nice looking ship there. That's a little, looks like an aircraft carrier. The U.S. military will move an aircraft carrier, fighter jet squadron, cruisers, and destroyers with ballistic missile capability and land-based ballistic missiles to West Asia, the Pentagon announced on Friday, to help defend Israel from possible retaliatory attacks by the Axis of Resistance. Axis of Resistance live at the Civic Center with special guest Crocus. Tickets on sale now. Be there. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is ordering the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group to West Asia, where it will join the USS Theodore Roosevelt carrier strike group, which is in the Gulf of Oman. It is unclear if the USS Abraham Lincoln will replace the Theodore Roosevelt, which is scheduled to return to the U.S. later this summer, or whether the Theodore Roosevelt will remain in the region alongside the Abraham Lincoln and be directed to the Mediterranean Sea to help defend Israel. Pentagon did not say where the fighter jet squadron was coming from or where it would be based in West Asia. The U.S. has multiple Arab allies in the region who are willing to base U.S. military forces, but request that their presence not be made public. You think? So yeah, here they come. Oh, we're not gonna mess with it. We're just gonna give them weapons. And now there's 4,000 troops. Somebody made a good point on the old tweeters there. They say even just one of those troops dies, that's gonna be it. That's where World War III begins. So, and also, CENTCOM's chief is in Israel for preparations against Iran and Hezbollah. So they're not fucking around. They're getting ready for some all-out war over there. So U.S. CENTCOM chief arrived in Israel on Saturday to help Tel Aviv prepare for an Iranian retaliation to the killing of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh on its soil last week, as well as Hezbollah's response to the strike on Beirut hours before. General Michael Kurilla arrived in Israel as preparations continue for a possible attack against Israel from Iran and Hezbollah in retaliation for the assassinations of senior Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. That's from a couple officials who told Axios yesterday. Kurilla had already been planning a trip to Israel prior to the serious escalation, which saw Tel Aviv attack Beirut and Tehran within hours of each other. Yes, he was wanting to get the front row seat for the genocide going on there. He's expected to use the trip to try to mobilize the same international regional coalition that defended Israel against an attack from Iran on April 13th, an official told Axios. At the time, Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel in response to the destruction of its consulate in Damascus and the killing of several Iranian officials. I don't know if you remember that. That's where that particular incident is what exposed the Iron Dome for being the crap system that it is. All hype. Well, Jordan, one of Israel and the United States cucks in the region, is like, man, we don't want any war, dude. Come on, yeah, chill out. I know they've killed your people, but can you chill? This is from Al Arabiya News. Jordan's top diplomat urges de-escalation of regional tensions in rare Iran visit. That's right. And probably should have fixed your tie, too. Jordan's foreign minister, Ayman Safadi, concluded a rare visit to Iran yesterday with a plea for an end to the escalation of violence for the region to be able to live in peace, security, and stability. Safadi's visit to Iran follows continued diplomatic contacts by the United States and its partners, including France, Britain, Italy, and Egypt, the other cuck in the region there, to prevent further regional escalation following the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. In a meeting with Safadi, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said the assassination of Haniyeh was a major mistake by the Zionist regime, Israel, that will not go unanswered. That's what Iranian state TV reported. So, Iran and Jordan are also seeking to improve their relations following recent tensions related to Amman accusing pro-Iranian militias in Syria of smuggling narcotics into the country, and it's taking part in the interception of Iran's first ever direct attack on Israel last April. My visit to Iran is to consult on the serious escalation in the region and engage in a frank and clear discussion about overcoming the differences between the two countries with honesty and transparency, Safadi said at a press conference in Tehran alongside his Iranian counterpart. Yeah, y'all whacked two of their people. You killed them. This isn't like an oopsie. It's not like some sort of bullshit beef. You killed people, and they did not like that. So, and Israel is not fucking around here. They were fucking around. Now they're finding out, but they're finding out before they find out too much. They're going to go underground. So, this is from RT. Israel preparing underground bunker for Iranian attack, according to the media. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet could operate from beneath Jerusalem in the event of a full-scale war. So, yeah. Israel's Shin Bet, the security agency, has prepared a bunker under Jerusalem where the country's political leaders will work in the event of a full-scale attack on the Jewish state. Israeli journalist Ben Caspit reported on Saturday. The newly prepared command and control bunker is intended for the conduct of wars by the political security elite of the state. Caspit wrote, adding that the subterranean facility is connected to the pit under the Kira military base in Tel Aviv and to all the other bunkers spread across Israel. Much like in America, where we have all these tunnels across the United States underground that the military uses with their alien friends. It allows for a long stay and is immune to all kinds of weapons, Caspit added, without citing any sources. Israel is currently bracing for an attack by Iran, which Iranian officials have vowed to launch in retaliation for the reasons we explained earlier. U.S. officials say they expect the attack to begin today, and that Lebanese Hezbollah forces could take part in the revenge for Israel's killing of their commander, Fuad Shakur, in Beirut on Tuesday. So, yeah, and... the knowing not knowing is kind of the thing. That what is it? Rumsfeld said there's known knowns and there's known unknowns and unknown knowns and unknown knowns and gone. She been gone so long. She been gone so long. Woo! Yeah. So they don't know shit. So in the meantime, they're just gonna say, you know what? Chicken in a bucket. Fuck it. We're gonna not only protect ourselves, we're still gonna get our kill on. Back to the cradle. Israel continues brutal attacks on displaced Palestinians in schools and tent encampments. So Israel loves bombing tents, y'all. I don't know why. Maybe they were kicked out of the Boy Scouts or something. I don't understand. Israeli forces bombarded tents housing displaced Palestinians in the yard of Deir al-Balah's Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in central Gaza early on Sunday, killing 5 and injuring over a dozen more. 5 civilians were killed and over 16 others injured when Israeli drones targeted tents housing displaced persons near the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. The attack also caused a large fire to erupt in the tents. WAFA news agency reported on Sunday. At least 5 people were killed in other Israeli strikes on several areas of Gaza City in the north of the Strip. The attacks came hours after an Israeli strike that killed at least 17 people. In central Gaza. So the killings keep going. They keep piling up. But the one thing you don't really hear about is how many Israelis have been killed in this conflict. So this is from the Palestine Chronicle. As you can see over here to the right, you see the Gaza genocide here. Almost 40,000 people killed, 91,280 wounded, and 11,000 missing, presumably under the rubble. But at least reporting 10,000 Israeli soldiers have been killed or wounded. Report exposes crisis among Israeli soldiers in Gaza. According to the report, no less than 10,000, the Israeli newspaper Yedioth Ahronoth revealed yesterday that the names of tens of thousands of Israeli soldiers are listed among those killed and wounded in the ongoing war. No less than 10,000 soldiers who were killed or wounded during the long months of fighting in the Gaza Strip are missing from the IDF today. The newspaper also revealed that approximately 1,000 soldiers joined the ranks of the physically and mentally wounded. They're probably mentally wounded right off the bat if you're into genocide, as recorded by the Rehabilitation Department of the Israeli Ministry of Security. Despite these alarming figures, both the Knesset and the government have pushed forward with the reformulation and passage of a law to extend compulsory military service, reportedly leaving regular soldiers in a state of significant frustration and uncertainty. So, and then we were also hearing reports too of these IDF soldiers committing these atrocities and then kind of having a buyer's remorse afterwards, and well, fuck them. Sorry, you know what you were signing up for. I'm sorry your country is steeped in this hateful propaganda, but it is what it is. Sorry, boss. No tears from here. As we head over to the UK, protests have been going on around the world to stop the genocide in Palestine. And like we said, we had more of these in London over the weekend. This is from Middle East Eye. Tens of thousands rally in London for Gaza ceasefire as tensions rise in the Middle East. Fears of escalation are on the rise following the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Tens of thousands of people rallied in central London days after the killings of Hamas leader and the senior Hezbollah commander Fuad Shakur, triggering fears of a regional conflict. Marchers began at Park Lane amid a heavy police presence as the Metropolitan Police face continued pressure to manage Palestine solidarity protests. Really manhandle. Weaving their way through the heart of London towards Parliament, the protesters called for a ceasefire in Gaza and chanted, "Free Palestine, and from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," demanding equal rights for Palestinians between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. So you got that going on. That's one side of this. Now you have the other side. Far-right mob storms Rotherham Hotel and attacks police amid escalating violence. We're going to get into who this Tommy Robinson person is in just a second. So rioters forced their way into a Holiday Inn Express by smashing windows and pelting police officers with bricks and beer bottles. I want to make a Holiday Inn Express joke there, but there's no joke there. A far-right mob stormed a hotel allegedly used to house migrants in Rotherham, UK, yesterday as riots continued for a fifth day. The riots followed the deadly stabbings in Southport, which were falsely attributed to Muslims and migrants. Footage broadcast by the BBC shows scores of rioters forcing their way into the Holiday Inn Express in Rotherham after smashing windows and setting a bin outside the building on fire. What's up, Choosy? At least one police officer was wounded in the attacks as the mob, some draped in English flags, hurled bricks, beer bottles, and other projectiles at officers. Rioters could be heard on numerous live streams hosted on TikTok chanting the name of far-right activist Tommy Robinson as they threw projectiles at police officers in riot gear. Later yesterday, riot police were deployed to Middlesbrough as groups of angry men took to the streets in Bolton. Authorities issued dispersal notices granting officers extra powers to deal with antisocial behavior. So this Tommy Robinson guy, right? This is from the Times of India. This kind of gives a little breakdown of who this guy is. So Tommy Robinson, this guy right here, the former leader of the English Defence League, who has been linked to the riot in the UK, has been spotted in a luxury resort in Cyprus. Oh, wow. How about that? Well, his people are rioting over there. He's over there having a nice little holiday. Despite a UK arrest warrant issued last Monday after he missed a court appearance, Robinson has continued to post inflammatory messages on social media from his holiday destination, where he's staying with family and friends. According to a report by the Daily Mail, Robinson has been staying at a 5-star all-inclusive resort. Ooh. But let's get to the meat of it. So on July 27th, he led a major rally marked by nationalist rhetoric, raising concerns about potential violence and public disorder. He fled the UK after allegedly committing contempt of court by screening a film at a protest that repeated false claims he made about a Syrian refugee. Despite a court order to appear, Robinson left the country, seemingly to avoid legal consequences. From an undisclosed location, he has continued to release statements and videos on social media urging his supporters to continue their protests and claiming they're on the verge of something massive. The unrest is the worst in England, has seen in over a decade, highlighting growing racial and religious tensions in the country. The violence is the worst England has seen since the summer of 2011, when widespread rioting took place following the police killing of a mixed-race man in North London. The violence follows a mass stabbing at a dance class in Southport, which left 3 girls dead. False rumors about the attacker's background have fueled anti-immigrant sentiment, leading to a series of violent protests. The unrest is primarily driven by misinformation spread online, falsely claiming that the suspect in the Southport stabbing, Axel Rudakubana, was an asylum seeker and a radical Islamist. In reality, Rudakubana, 17, is a British-born citizen of Rwandan descent, and the incident is not being treated as a terrorist attack. These events have escalated in the wake of a stabbing rampage at the children's dance class that left 3 girls dead. The unrest, fueled by misinformation and anti-immigration sentiment, have seen rioters clashing with police, targeting hotels housing asylum seekers, and causing widespread damage in various towns and cities. Right? So that's, you got the far right stirring up shit over there. You got the far right stirring up shit over here. You know, you're guaranteed in a lot of these peaceful protests for Palestine that you're going to have some people in the mix trying to make them look violent, when in reality it's the far right that's doing most of the shit. But of course, who is this Tommy Robinson guy to blame? Who's really to blame? Well, I'll tell you who's to blame. It's Russia. Russia. RT telling us why UK is blaming Mother Russia.
Which resulted in anti-immigration protesters flooding the streets and clashing with police. As police tried to calm the protests, their efforts eventually proved futile as the crowds on both sides of the issue clashed. In Liverpool, tensions ran so high that the scene turned into what, by all accounts, was a battlefield as demonstrators threw fireworks and set fires. About 90 people reportedly arrested so far. However, the media is wasting little time in finding who to blame, and apparently it's all Russia's fault somehow. Outlets like The Independent published articles underlining concerns that Vladimir Putin is behind the trouble. According to the narrative, people who have taken to the streets were enraged over last week's mass stabbing in Southport, which left 3 young girls dead. And they are apparently fueled by Russian misinformation spread by social media. Russia, meantime, by the way, says
this is predictable gaslighting. This is predictable gaslighting from people who have themselves contributed to the destabilization of entire countries and regions, setting in motion unprecedented refugee flows and human suffering. Russia does not intervene in the internal affairs of sovereign states.
However, not everyone has been quick to jump on the blame Moscow bandwagon. Some outlets pointed out that the accusation of foreign disinformation is a convenient excuse for the failures of the British authorities. We heard from a human rights activist in London, Theo Russell, who says the claims against Russia are baseless.
We've seen similar claims over many months, particularly during the period of mass protests against Israeli actions in Gaza and Yemen and the West Bank, coming from right-wing Tory Home Ministers, Suella Braverman and Priti Patel. These emanate essentially from the British security services and certain sections of the establishment who are aiming to, their world aims are to basically achieve regime change in various countries, including Russia, China, and Iran. And these claims are often totally baseless.
Yep. Why did Trump become president? Russia. Who started all these riots? Russia. Russia. Yeah. So there'll be more of that. There'll be much more of that kind of thing. Just keep your eyes open for the blame game. You got $20 missing from your bank accounts, probably Russia. Meanwhile, in Bangladesh, things are going wild over there. They stormed the palace, and, well, their prime minister said, "Peace! Bangladesh prime minister resigns and flees country as protesters storm the palace." The South Asian country has been engulfed in violence as student activists have demanded a fair recruitment system for government jobs. So this was just over government jobs and like quota systems and stuff. And they chased this chick out. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fled the country via military helicopter on Monday, after which the South Asian nation's army chief announced that an interim government would be formed. The development comes following weeks of violent protests that have engulfed the country and have reportedly resulted in hundreds of deaths as rioters have clashed with police. The protesters stormed the prime minister's palace in the capital of Dhaka, demanding Hasina's resignation. In an emergency press conference, Bangladesh Army Chief Wakar-uz-Zaman announced that Hasina had resigned and that a new interim government would now be formed to run the country. He called on the protesters to disperse and go home, asking citizens to maintain their trust in the army, which will work to restore peace. Zaman vowed that all the deaths that have occurred over the past few weeks of violent protests will be investigated, and asked the demonstrators to give the army some time as it works to find a solution to the crisis, right? We let all kinds of shit happen to us over here. We ain't running nobody out. We should probably change that. So, last week we were telling about the 9/11 suspects got a plea deal, right? Well, our buddy Lloyd Austin said, "No dice, precious." He said, "Takesy backsies." Pentagon Chiefs revokes 9/11 suspects plea deal. Now, this is interesting. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said he reserves the exclusive right to enter into pretrial agreements in this case. Okay. He withdrew a plea deal with 3 9/11 suspects, including the alleged mastermind behind the attack. The Pentagon said on Saturday the agreement involved the men pleading guilty to avoid the death penalty. The deal was initially announced by the prosecutors on Wednesday, we reported that, and involved Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Walid Mohammed Salih Mubarak bin Atash, that's a hell of a name, and Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Hawsawi. I didn't butcher that too much. Mohammed is widely regarded as the mastermind, KSM, of the 2001 attacks. Bin Atash is believed to have selected and trained most of the 19 hijackers, Saudis, who flew commercial airliners into the World Trade Center and Pentagon. Al-Hawsawi is accused of financing So the agreement was negotiated by retired Brigadier General Susan K. Escalier, who was designated by Austin as the convening authority for military commissions in 2023. The defense secretary has now removed her from the case, a memo published by the Pentagon says. According to the document, Austin reverses the exclusive right to enter into pretrial agreements with the suspects for himself. I have determined, in light of the significance of the decision to enter into pretrial agreements with the accused in the above referenced case, responsibility for such a decision should rest with me as the superior convening authority under the Military Commissions Act, Austin said in the memo, informing Escalier that he is withdrawing her authority in this particular case. He also said he withdraws from the 3 pretrial agreements signed on July 30th. He did not provide any reasons for the withdrawal. The deal envisaged the 3 suspects receiving life sentences and avoiding a major trial and potential death penalties in exchange for pleas. All of them are currently being held at Guantanamo Bay. They were captured in 2003 and spent time in other secret CIA prisons previously. So yeah, that's a weird story. It's like, okay, they took the plea deals and then he said, nah, I don't know. Maybe somebody talked to him and said, these plea deals are no dice. I know the 9/11 survivors' families were talking about they did not like the plea deal at all. Maybe they talked to them. I don't know. But it is the government, so just assume it's something nefarious, and chances are you'll be correct. Meanwhile, here on this side of the world here, Mexican army is dealing with drug dealers that have drones that drop bombs. This is wild. So the Mexican army acknowledges some of its soldiers have been killed by cartel bomb dropping drones. 21st century technology, folks. These drones, they're not just going to deliver pizza and Amazon. They're going to deliver boom boom. Mexican army acknowledged for the first time on Friday that some of its soldiers have been killed by bomb-dropping drones operated by drug cartels. Defense Secretary General Luis Crescencio Sandoval did not provide exact figures on the number of casualties suffered in the attacks, almost all of which occurred in the western state of Michoacan. Michoacan, man. Our personnel have suffered wounds, and some of our troops have even died in the attack, Sandoval said. The Army had previously acknowledged that soldiers had been wounded in Michoacan by improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, like they used in Iraq. So using guerrilla war tactics against the military there. And they have the money to do it. The drug cartels do. Sandoval did not say when the attacks took place, but suggested they targeted patrol units. He said the Army was acquiring anti-drone systems to combat the threat. Sandoval says the Army continues to encounter far more roadside bombs than drone-dropped ones. The Jalisco drug cartel has been fighting local gangs for control of Michoacan for years, and the situation has become so militarized that the warring cartels use these roadside IEDs, trenches, pillboxes, homemade armored vehicles, and sniper rifles. Bang. That's crazy, right? I mean, it was just a matter of time that these cartels who have all this cash were saying, you know what, boots on the ground ain't doing it. Let's go airborne. So in the southern hemisphere, you know, Nicolas Maduro recently won a re-election as president of Venezuela. But the U.S. and the European Union, being the colonial crapheads that they are, will not recognize him. So Maduro slams the EU and Borrell as stigma over election remarks. There he is right there. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has sharply criticized EU foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell and the European Union, labeling them a stigma in response to their stance on the recent elections. Maduro denounced the EU's allegations of repression of peaceful protests in Venezuela, suggesting that these claims ignore the reality of attacks on officials and the sabotage of state institutions within the country. This criticism follows the EU's decision to escalate pressure on Venezuela and align with the United States in rejecting Nicolas Maduro's recent presidential victory. On Sunday, the EU Council declared that the results announced by Venezuela's National Electoral Council on October 2nd, quote, cannot be recognized. Borrell reaffirmed that the EU will not endorse the election results until all votes are counted and detailed voting records are provided. In response, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil dismissed the EU statement, asserting on social media that the EU's aggression against Guaido 1.0 was defeated, and Guaido's 2.0's aggression will also be thwarted by the people's dignity and its institutions. Everybody knows that Juan Guaido, man. He needs a job. Gil's comments referred to former National Assembly President Juan Guaido, who declared himself president with backing from the U.S. and the EU. Juan Guaido. Look at him. He's like, Juan Guaido, you piece of shit fuckface. No, he didn't say that. He should have. I just have poor translation of my Spanish. No bueno. Meanwhile, EU they like to double down too on dumb shit. They're deciding that they want to fuck with China. This is back to back from Al Mayadeen. The EU may fully approve tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Final vote coming up in 2 months. EU nations are expected to back the proposed tariffs that would be imposed on Chinese electric vehicles in November, the Financial Times reported, citing European Trade Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis. European Commission spokesperson Eric Mamer stated in July that the Commission intended to apply import taxes on Chinese electric vehicles. Speaking to the Financial Times, Dombrovskis said, "It's clear that member states realize the need to protect the EU's car industry because this risk of injury is there. Chinese battery electric vehicle market share is growing very rapidly. That subsidization is there," stressing the need for the matter to be addressed. It is anticipated that the member states will vote on the tariff proposal in late October, with the decision going into effect in full November. In November, China warned that the additional EU tariffs on imports of Chinese electric vehicles would harm Europe's own interests. It goes against the principles of market economy and international trade rules, undermines China-EU economic and trade cooperation, as well as the stability of the global automobile production and supply chain, said Chinese Foreign Minister spokesperson Lin Jian. In addition, the commissioner stated that the future talks with Beijing will center on removing trade barriers and guaranteeing more reciprocal trade, given that European markets are more accessible to Chinese goods and firms than the Chinese markets is to Europeans. Last month, the European Union added extra provisional duties of up to 38% on Chinese electric car imports because of supposed unfair state subsidies, despite Beijing's warnings that such a move would unleash a trade war. The European Commission probe launch last year concluded that Chinese state subsidies for EV manufacturers were unfairly undercutting European companies. It said our investigation concluded that the battery electric vehicles produced in China benefit from unfair subsidization, which is causing a threat of economic injury to the EU's own electric car makers. China emerged as the clear global leader in the EV market in 2022, surpassing the combined sales of all other countries, 6 times higher than those of second place United States and those lovely trucks that Elon Musk is making. I got to tell you, those trucks, those Tesla trucks, they remind me of the Sux 9000 from RoboCop, the SUX. It was the Sux 9000, and they look like it too. They just look like these bland, generic cars. The publicly listed Chinese multinational conglomerate BYD, pretty young, accounts for 29.6% of all EV sales in 2022. Yeah. So it's about to get stupid. Okay. It's about to get stupid with China. And China's just like, China's more than willing to let, Europe give themselves enough rope to hang themselves with. Hey, listen, this is a heads up. I just found this out yesterday. I didn't know about this. So apparently there's a deli meat recall. So Boar's Head recalls 7 million pounds of deli meat after being linked to Listeria outbreak. Not to be confused with the Def Leppard album Hysteria, which did not contain Listeria. I don't think so. But it was never tested, so don't quote me on that. The Boar's Head Company is expanding a recall of deli meat products that may contain Listeria, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, FSIS. The recall has been expanded to nearly 7 million additional pounds worth of ready-to-eat meat and poultry products. According to the FSIS, the recall expansion includes 71 food items produced between May 10th of this year and July 29th of this year by both Boar's Head and Old Country brands. On Monday evening, we learned from the USDA that our Strasburger brand liverwurst has been linked to the national deli meat Listeria monocytogenes outbreak, wrote Boar's Head on their website. Based on this new information, we took steps to ensure we're doing everything possible to protect public health. Don't eat the meat. Don't eat the Boar's Head. At least not right now. Or maybe ever. I don't know. Uh-oh, somebody wants money. Boar's Head recall. Woman files class action lawsuit against deli company. That's quick. A woman from Queens, from Queens, New York, filed a proposed class action lawsuit against Boar's Head following a massive recall due to Listeria. The lawsuit, Torres versus Boar's Head Provision Company Incorporated, was filed on August 1st in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York. The plaintiff, Rita Torres, purchased a Boar's Head ham product from a grocery store in Queens, said the lawsuit. Boar's Head is accused of false, misleading, and deceptive marketing. Torres was not sickened by the product. I don't know why she's suing then. Oh, because she wants me. Since the recall of Boar's Head products was announced in July, cases of Listeria related to the contaminated deli meats have been reported in 13 states, according to a July 31st food safety alert published by the Centers for Disease Control. Those people. Additionally, there have been 33 hospitalizations and 2 deaths associated with the contaminated meats, said the CDC. The original recall, first published on July 26, only concerned Boar's Head liverwurst products. Really? That many people are eating liverwurst? So produce sold at Walmart, Aldi, Kroger stores recalled over Listeria risk as well. That was expanded on July 30th to include all products that were produced at the Boar's Head facility in Jarrett, Virginia. The statement, out of an abundance of caution, we decided to immediately and voluntarily expand our recall to include all items produced at the Jarrett facility. We've also decided to pause ready-to-eat operations at this facility until further notice. As a company that prioritizes safety and quality, we believe it is the right thing to do. Yeah, because people are fucking suing you, dude. You better stop. Jesus H. Where are we at? We've made our way down this road a good ways. So some of you are wondering, well, what's going on with the shits with the stocks? What's going on? Well, there's various reasons for it. This is from RT. Global stock market crash. Live updates following staggering drops in Japan's Nikkei and Bitcoin. European banks are tumbling to March lows. So stock markets went into a meltdown on Monday amid fears that the U.S. could be heading for a recession, pushing investors into panic selling modes, market data shows. The U.S. has seen an unexpected rise in the unemployment rate, according to July payrolls report unveiled on Friday. This led to markets betting on the Federal Reserve cutting rates in September by a full 50 basis points and sparked debate among economists about the overall health of the U.S. economy with its enormous influence in the global financial market. U.S. stocks closed sharply down on Friday with technology-heavy NASDAQ composite falling into correction, but Monday kicked off with new drops. Yeah. Japan having one of their worst. I think they had the worst drop since 1987 when the big one hit. I mean, a lot of people don't remember the the stock market crash of 87. You know, everybody remembers 2008 or 2007, whenever it was. But 87 was the big one too. So with all this cascading stuff, there's a lot of information within that's causing some of this stuff. One of these is Intel launching its largest streamlining plan. Layoffs include Israel. Ooh, Intel. Dun, 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 dun. The semiconductor giant is launching its largest ever streamlining plan, which will see over 17,000 employees laid off globally, including in Israel. I don't know why it's in quotes, because they don't recognize Israel. They just say Israel. According to sources that spoke to Globes, whatever Globes is, this cut represents 15% of its total workforce. Starting today, Intel will release details about a voluntary retirement program known as the Corporate People Movement. The Corporate People Movement. Yeah, that sounds totally Judge Dredd right there. This initiative is aimed at employees nearing retirement age or those with lower performance ratings, offering them a one-time buyout payment and enhanced pension incentives. The layoff process will commence following the voluntary retirement phase, which with all affected employees informed by early October. Intel plans to complete this process by November 15th. The company intends to cut annual costs by $10 billion in response to decreasing revenue, market share, and a valuation that recently fell below $100 billion for the first time in decades. NVIDIA is not really helping their cause either. And of course, AMD kind of nipping at their heels too. Intel has about almost 125,000 employees worldwide, including 11,000 in Israel across Haifa, Al-Quds, Petah Tikva, and Kiryat Gat. The company recently halted work on its new $25 billion factory in Kiryat Gat due to cash flow problems and the need to secure customers for the facility. In turn, Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger expressed his regret over the decision, acknowledging its significant impact on employees and their factories. Wall Street stocks drop. Oops, what are you doing? Thank you. So yeah, the Wall Street stocks drop as Intel announces major layoffs. So that's all part of the fun. Yeah, I know. It puts Israel in quotes. That's Al Mayadeen that was doing that. So that was from Friday. Yeah, that was from Friday. So yeah, TikTok here, not the app, but the countdown. And this is what we were talking about in Japan. Japan's Nikkei slumps more than 10% in worst losses since '87. Fears about the health of the U.S. economy are hitting Japan's stock market and share indices around Asia. Japanese stocks have recorded their biggest losses since October '87, extending last week's sell-off spurred by concerns the United States economy may be weaker than previously thought. The share average was down 10.01%, or 3595.30 points to 32,314.40 in the early afternoon, its lowest in months. The index has dropped sharply from its peak in July and is on course for its biggest two-day plunge ever. Domestic equities tanked purely because of the worries that the U.S. economy may be heading into a recession. U.S. stocks sold off for a second straight session on Friday after a weak jobs report raised fears of an oncoming recession and expectations that the Federal Reserve will make a hefty rate cut in September, The prospect of lower interest rates weighed on the dollar, boosting the yen as well. The Japanese currency was up nearly 1% at 145.11 per dollar after touching its highest since mid-January of 144.76 earlier in the session. Yeah, bad to worse. But, you know, if you're one of those rare people that still has a 401k, you know, and you're looking for cash in this very, very uncertain economic environment, well, there's good news for you from the IRS. You know, those people that everybody loves, especially the libertarians. This is from Zero Hedge. IRS makes it easier for cash-strapped Americans to raid 401k IRA accounts. That's where we're at. The rising number of Americans whose checking accounts are running on fumes have a new but less than ideal way of scraping up cash to make ends meet, as the IRS has issued rules to enable potentially penalty-free withdrawals from retirement accounts for flexibility to find emergencies, or in this case, living. The new rules bring to life one of the provisions of the Secure Act 2.0, a law passed at the end of 2022. It made many tweaks to retirement plans. With this one, retirement account owners can withdraw up to $1,000 for emergencies, or Israel. And the IRS isn't tightly defining that word, emergencies. I got a crack emergency. I need some money for crack. Whether you've had a car wreck or simply went overboard ordering from Grubhub, and you know, if you got a dip in your IRA because you went overboard on Grubhub, wow, maybe lay off the snacks. The provision will let you take money out of your account without being subject to the typical 10% penalty for withdrawals before age 59 and a half. You still owe ordinary income tax while facing a potential opportunity cost, whatever that is, in the form of gains you may miss out on by cashing out. Yes, exactly, Ed. The rare few that still have 401ks, particularly after 2007. Not a lot of those creatures roaming around. But, yeah, so, and this, I don't know, this was kind of, I didn't know really where to put this, but I just thought this was interesting. You know, we talk about Russia and what's going on with the war in Ukraine, but then we don't really hear much about the internal stuff that goes on there domestically. So they got this thing now where Moscow says, itty bitties, go home. We want big bazoombas. Moscow outlaws construction of tiny apartments. All newly built housing must now measure more than 28 square meters. Meters like almost like 3 feet in redneck backwards America. So whatever. So 28, yeah, whatever that is. Do the math. Woo, look at that. So the city of Moscow has banned the construction of micro apartments according to a decree published in a centralized legislation database on Friday. The ban follows the recent announcement of social development goals by Russian President Vladimir Putin. The decree, which was signed by Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin and came into force on Thursday, sets a minimum size limit of 28 square meters for apartments, excluding balconies, terraces, and cold storage rooms. Cold storage rooms for hanging meat of various kinds. The restrictions were introduced in order to ensure favorable living conditions in apartment blocks. As part of his social policy aimed at supporting families, Putin instructed the government in May to improve living conditions in the country. The aim is to have sufficient housing for cities and to have a minimum living space of 33 square meters by 2030 and 38 by 2036. Real estate experts say micro apartments have been popular in Moscow in recent years, especially among young adults. Apartments smaller than 28 square meters currently make up 18% of the total amount of housing for sale in the capital, according to Business Daily RBK, citing industry experts. Plans to outlaw tiny apartments were first reported shortly after the presidential announcement. This drove up prices for properties measuring under 28 square meters by up to 60%, RBK said on Friday. micro apartments. Yeah. If they did that in New York, there would be no population. It would just be like a handful of rich people living there. So yeah, if you plan on going to Russia, good news. I don't think they're. I don't know about the. I don't know if the smaller ones are being grandfathered in or not. But maybe our buddy Fee over there knows something like that. I'll ask her about that. I know if some of y'all may not be. Probably most of you are old enough to remember 9/11 and the threat levels. After the attacks, that's when all hell broke loose with the Patriot Act, the what is it, Homeland Security, all this bureaucracy that was built in, and then all the surveillance and all that stuff began, right? But one of the things that they tried to keep people in order with was these terror charts, levels of terror, right? So I think orange was like the top threat or something. I don't know, maybe red was the top threat. And orange and all that stuff. So, and then that kind of petered out because people were just like, well, this is bullshit. These, they're just trying to scare people. But in Australia, they say, hey, mate, whatever's old is new here. Throw a shrimp on the Barbie. It's propaganda watch, y'all.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media are true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use those platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control
exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, so this is from NBC News. Australia raises terror threat level to probable from possible. Officials cited an increase in extremist views in the country, leading to a more than 50% chance of the planning of an onshore attack in the next 12 months. So Australia today raised its terror threat level to probable from possible, citing an increase in extremist views in the country. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that he had raised the country's threat level following advice from security services, but said there was no imminent threat of an attack. The voice that we have received in that more Australians are embracing a more diverse range of extreme ideologies. I'm not doing that anymore. And it is our responsibility to be vigilant, he told a news conference. Australia lowered the threat level to possible in 2022 following 8 years at probable. I think the next steps are maybe I think that's their chart. And then, shrimp on the Barbie is like, oh, that's got to be the worst. That's got to be the worst. Shrimp on the Barbie. Finally today, a lot of news. I knew we were going to go long. 28 open tabs today. A lot of news. So back at RT, what's better than somebody trying to leave a flight before it lands? Somebody from New Jersey trying to leave a flight before it lands. So, unruly passenger charged after trying to open aircraft door mid-flight. So, I don't know as much of a kicker, but this is just kind of ain't that America? A New Jersey man reportedly consumed marijuana edibles before going berserk. All right. Okay. So you're like, okay, well, he took one and went berserk. This is the gentleman right here. Shirtless Joe here. An American Airlines flight was forced to make an emergency landing in Salt Lake City after an intoxicated traveler attempted to open the plane's emergency door mid-flight and propositioned an air hostess for sex. The incident occurred on July 18th aboard Flight 2101 bound for Dallas. Eric Nicholas Gapko, 26 of Delanco, New Jersey, admitted to eating 10 marijuana edibles. 10 marijuana edibles, probably at like 50 milligrams a piece. So we're talking about half a gram before he started acting unruly according to the Utah State District Attorney's statement published on Wednesday. Gapko reportedly pulled off his shirt and began puffing his vape pen, refusing to take his seat and assaulting crew members. He was later restrained by a flight attendant who tied his hands and feet while the captain diverted the aircraft to Salt Lake City and made an emergency landing. In a video posted online, Gapko is seen shouting, "I am sane," as flight attendants try to calm him near the restroom. Let's look at this. You got to see this. Is this thing gonna work? Yep. No. There you go. So this is the. Oops. Let's put this back here. Hey, buddy. Oh, technology. You're such a bastard. What's going on?
We're going to get you the help you need. You want that?
Ow, my shoulder!
You want that cup of coffee?
No.
Okay. We're going to help you get some.
How do I?
Texas.
There we go.
You say potato, I say potato. Donald Trump 2024 or Joe Biden, I don't mind.
Donald Trump 2024 or Joe Biden, I don't mind. Gapko is charged with interference with a flight crew and attempted damage to an aircraft in the special aircraft jurisdiction of the United States. So you heard the Texans over there. Come on now, come on. And he said, "Hey, nothing wrong with me. I just ate 10 edibles. What could possibly go wrong?" Wild shit. Anyway, we're way over time. Don't forget Willie Bragg tonight. What's up, Prop? Good to see you, buddy. Looking like a biker drug lord. You don't like my chops? Come on, man. Chops is where it's at. You get to be my age. Chops are fun. So Willie Bragg tonight. I think he's going to do 2 shows. I'm not quite sure when. Check your local listings for that. If you're not subscribed to the Willie Bragg Show, make sure you are, and you get those notifications. Click the bell too, so you get all those. And you can do that with this show too. If you're new, if you're watching this, you're not chatting or whatever, that's fine. You don't need to chat. But if you want to, we're on Rockfin and Rumble too. So if you want to subscribe over there too, you can do that as well. Around the World with D and Friends tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, as always on YouTube, talking about world events and doing a good job of it too. Hard-working lady there, our pal D. So looks like that is going to be it for me today. Tomorrow, hopefully, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we'll have Willie and Jimmy on for Bragland. 5 p.m. Eastern, Willie, is that right? I think for Bragland. So I believe that is on the Bragland channel, so that you can just look up BRAGGLAND. You'll see their channel there. So check them out. Check out all the good indie news outlets like antiwar.com. All your other journalists out there who are trying to bring you the real and not the bullshit that you get from mainstream media or some overblown, bloated opinions where they just, they only cover one story and, glorify their unintelligent opinions about shit because they like to hear themselves talk. If you like those people, that's fine. But if you want information, check out the independent journalists. And we try to provide those on this show as much as we can. We get a few, sometimes you have to throw AP in there, but, some of those things, it can't be helped. We need to get the information out one way or another. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you back here on Wednesday. Have a great day. Stay safe. Don't join the cults. Use your critical thinking skills. You have them. Use them. And be safe. We'll see you next time.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo! Damn good song, wasn't it, dog? You like that song? All right.